We hear about it, we see ads about it, but for many, the awareness of just how serious and yet preventable HPV can be is just not on our radar. Our next guest is going to change all that. Dr. Vivian Brown is a family physician in Toronto and is the Vice President for Medical Affairs at Medicis Health Group Incorporated. That's a national business dedicated to preventative health care. So welcome to What She Said, Dr. Brown.
Thank you so much. Call me Vivian.
Okay, Vivian, this evening we're going to talk about HPV. Tell us why it's so dangerous.
Well, you know, what we've learned in the last 10 or 15 years is that certain kinds of genital cancers and throat cancers are caused by a virus. Mm-hmm. And what that means is if we can prevent the virus, we can prevent the cancer. You know, think about it. If you know that there's a viral infection, you're going to get immunized. So think about measles. That's a viral infection. We immunize children. They don't get the disease. Well, now we know that certain cancers are caused by viruses. So if we immunize, we prevent the virus, we prevent the cancer.
Who is most at risk?
We know that everybody who is ever sexually active or has any kind of intimate touching is at risk for HPV. 80% of adults will have had HPV at some point in their life, but most of us clear it the way we clear a common cold, the way we clear other viruses. The problem is a certain percentage of us are not able to do that. So persistent HPV is what leads to cancers. And we see throat cancers, genital cancers, cervical cancer.
So it's transmitted by skin to skin?
Correct.
Contact?
Correct. Skin-to-skin contact spreads this virus, which means it could be on your hands. If there's intimate touching with any kind of moisture, you can spread it. So you don't actually need to be sexually active in order to spread HPV.
What segment of the population now has the highest rate of infection?
Well, what we know, Christine, is that younger people have the highest rate of infection, which is why we're immunizing kids in school. However, their immune system is very robust. They get immunized, and they often are able to fight the infection. As we get older, where our immune system is not as robust, is not as strong, and so we do see cancers in people as they get older. So infection is not the same as actually having the cancer.
So why is it not mandatory if the vaccine is so effective?
In Canada, we give people the right to say yes or no. So although we've got lots of vaccines, measles, mumps and rubella, polio, tetanus, we still have the option to say yes or no. The school program does offer this to boys and girls. Now in Ontario, it's in grade 7. In other provinces, it may be in other age groups. But in general, although the school regulation suggests certain vaccines are absolutely essential in order to go to school, HPV is not in that group of absolutely essential yet. We'll watch and see what happens in the next couple of years.
So obviously you're working towards making it mandatory.
I think mandatory is a tough word. We're working hard to educate and advocate around immunization. And we're very excited that on May 30th in Parliament Hill in Ottawa, we're going to have a day of education for the MPs. We're going to be announcing a week of HPV prevention in Ottawa in October. And that week is designed to really bring groups together and Canadians together to understand what this is all about. You know, I often tell my patients, if I could give you a vaccine that would prevent breast cancer, we'd run for it. People don't understand how valuable this vaccine is and how we see a decrease in cancers, a decrease in abnormal Pap tests by people being vaccinated.
So is it a complete lack of knowledge or is there an objection?
I would say that now the vaccine has been out 10 years. We are doing better in terms of education. We are doing better in terms of advocacy work. But I think there's still some people that don't understand the details. And they look at their child in grade 7 and they say, this is early. Why are we doing this? But what we know is that the younger you are when you're vaccinated, the better it takes. And the average age of exposure in Canada, the average age of kids starting to be sexually active is between 13 and 14. Now, your viewers, your listeners don't want to hear that. 13 to 14 is really young. But, you know, that's when we start to see even just touching, which can spread HPV.
So where can people go to find out more about HPV and what they can do?
So there's a number of websites that are really excellent. Immunize Canada, which is immunize.ca, has lots of information. And Immunize Canada is supported by Public Health Canada. This is an excellent, unbiased website. The SOGC, the Society of Obstetrics and Gynecologists of Canada, has a website called HPV and You, and that's another website that gives a lot of information. But you've got to know I'm biased. I'm a family doctor. I would say if you want information, if you want personalized attention, if you want to know how this affects you or your family or your partner or your loved one, go see your family doctor. This is the person that is really number one in your life in terms of giving you excellent information about how to protect your health.
Globally, what is the situation?
You know, there's been about 160 million doses worldwide already. And what we've seen in countries where there's high uptake, and that would be Australia, for example, we've seen decreases in genital warts, decreases in referrals for colposcopy, and colposcopy is the test that you do when you have an abnormal Pap test. We see decreases in return visits for colposcopy. So all over the world, Korea, Italy, Scotland, everybody is promoting this vaccine, and we're starting to see the effect after 10 years of decreased risk for cancer.
Is it my girls were both vaccinated when they were at school. But it was they were just doing girls at the beginning. Are they vaccinating girls and boys now?
So when the vaccine was first launched, most of the data was about cervical cancer. So it was first approved in Canada to immunize girls, and that's what we started with. In 2010, 2011, we got the national recommendation to start immunizing boys. But when we have a national recommendation, it gets implemented 14 different ways in the provinces and territories.
Well, of course it does.
So although it's a national recommendation, it may not be yet in your province. Ontario just started this year, this past September, immunizing boys and girls in grade 7.
How late would it be to get vaccinated? I mean, I know that you said that the rates, it may not be as effective. But is it ever too late?
You know, Kate, that's a really good question. And the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, NACI, has answered that question for us. They say the vaccine is recommended ages 9 to 26. And for those people above the age of 26, there is no upper age limit. So if you are at risk, if you're going to be with a new partner, if you're going to be exposed, if you're having a same-sex partner, your risk goes up and you may choose to be vaccinated at any age. Cervical cancer as a disease has a peak between age 30 and 40 in women, but has a second peak around age 70. So there's no upper age limit for trying to reduce your risk for cancer. This is a personal decision between you and your physician. I wouldn't say that everybody needs HPV vaccine. Some people may be in a situation where they haven't been with a partner or a new partner for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
They're unlikely to pick it up. But someone may be getting divorced or have their spouse die or be in a different situation, and their risk is going to then continue. So there's no upper age limit, and we have that guideline, that permission from the National Advisory Committee on Immunization to immunize up to any age.
Well, there's no downside. It's a win-win. I mean, why not if it's available?
I think one of the issues that some people have is the fact that we don't have data on women over the age of 45. The vaccine was approved in Canada from 9 to 45 in terms of age group. But although we don't have data and although we know our immune system gets weaker with time, I agree with you. I don't think there's a downside. We just don't know how efficient that vaccine will be. Will it be 90%? Will it be 88%? We're not quite sure. However, I think vaccinating absolutely decreases your risk. We can't quite say what the percentage is if you're over 45 because we don't have the data on those age groups.
Will we have the data at some point?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
Well, Dr. Vivian Brown, thank you so much for joining us. And again, shall we just quickly list out where people can go and find out more?
Sure. I think one of the best websites is the SOGC website, HPV and You, as well as Immunize Canada has lots of information on immunization. I'm the current past president of the Federation of Medical Women of Canada, and our website has a lot of information on HPV as well. But again, I'd send you back to your family doctor to have that one-on-one discussion.